Hi friends, I'm Niharika and this is Killer Literature. In my last video, I shared some top tips for acing IGCSE English Literature. Today, we are going to dive deep into the drama that I studied, and that is Shakespeare's Macbeth. Particularly, I'm going to show you my revision method for securing 30 on 30 in my final exam. Stick around for a free sample essay. So this is the master spreadsheet. I have about 35 quotes in here. There's a column for the quote's location in the play, the act and the scene. This is useful to cite in your essay as you're always jumping from one act to another. Here we have the quote itself and who it is spoken by. There's M for Macbeth, LM for Lady Macbeth, B for Banquo, and so on. The next column specifies the literary devices used in the quote and then their corresponding explanations. There are also some useful alternative interpretations detailed here. And finally, we have the character this quote describes and the themes this quote relates to. The way these quotes are arranged is in terms of their versatility. The first 10 to 12 quotes are the most important to study and can be used in almost any question that can come up. The quotes after that are less flexible. They're intended for more specific, rarer questions like Macduff's character analysis, for example. So if you want to memorize quotes pertaining to a certain theme or character, or see which quotes can answer a specific question, simply filter the spreadsheet like this. To memorize all this, you can use active recall, hide the explanation, and try to recall it from the quote and vice versa. At the end, you should be able to remember all the quotes and explanations even in your sleep. So even if you get the most convoluted question ever, you'll spend more time planning and organizing your argument than figuring out what to argue. So that's the master spreadsheet. I will insert a link in the description so that you can view it. You can add to it or even make your own. Next, let's talk about some key phrases and words to use in your essay that will really impress your examiners. We have Machiavellian to describe Macbeth's mischief throughout the play, nihilism to describe Macbeth's rejection of religion at the end of the play. Speaking of the end of the play, you can use denouement, just a fancy way of saying the end. Then we have my favorite, hamartia, which is Macbeth's fatal flaw. I also love to say that the play is an eponymous tragedy. Patriarchy is a vital idea to touch upon, especially when discussing what influences Macbeth and Lady Macbeth to become so ambitious. Regicide and treason are key terms. You can use them instead of saying murder over and over. You can also talk about how the play has a cyclical structure if your essay is benefited from it. Next, Shakespeare constructs characters. The word construct shows your awareness that these characters are created for a purpose. You may also mention how the play serves as a cautionary tale. You might use this in the conclusion for an essay on the negative effects of ambition, supernatural, or giving power to women. Finally, use the phrase Shakespeare presents. I've mentioned this in my previous video, but recalling the playwright's name signals that you recognize author's purpose. Finally, let's walk through a sample essay. Here is the question. The witches are completely to blame for Macbeth's downfall. How far do you agree with this view? This certainly has an argumentative ring to it. As soon as we see how far do you agree, we should immediately start planning points for and against this notion. So here is the plan for the essay done in about 5 minutes. I have written down whatever quotes come to mind for both for and against the notion. As for the for section, you can just filter out the quotes that relate to the witches from the spreadsheet, and here they are. Next, these quotes are just sequenced for the essay, so we can get started. Now let's have a read of the sample essay. In the eponymous tragedy Macbeth, Shakespeare presents a compelling narrative of the downfall of the tragic hero, Macbeth. Although the witches are presented as immensely powerful and as playing a part of Macbeth's downfall, Shakespeare also depicts several other factors influencing Macbeth, such as Macbeth's inherent unchecked ambition, Lady Macbeth's toxic persuasion, and Macbeth's own desire to depend on the witches. Furthermore, Banquo's rejection of evil also serves to argue against the witches' apparent control over Macbeth. Firstly, Shakespeare presents the witches as incredibly powerful, which could signify their capability in influencing Macbeth. The stage notation of thunder and lightning when the witches enter the stage conjures a dark and foreboding atmosphere through pathetic fallacy, perhaps also crafting connotations of foreshadowing the brewing storm and mental destruction the witches intend to bring in the coming plot. Furthermore, one could further comment on Shakespeare's use of trochaic meter and an obvious rhyme scheme when writing the witches' dialogue, thereby mimicking the speech patterns of an incantation. In this way, one may interpret that the witches could have put a curse on Macbeth through their spell-like dialogue and the chaotic powers they hold. To further support the witches' involvement in Macbeth's downfall, it is vital to note that it was the witches themselves who first illuminated the possibility of Macbeth becoming king, through the declarative statement, "Hail Macbeth, who shall be king hereafter." By being imperfect speakers and vanishing before giving Macbeth every detail, the witches manipulate Macbeth into believing he can steal the crown. Moreover, following the prophecies, Macbeth mirrors the witches' rhyming dialogue at the end of each scene, such as, "Hear it not, for it is Nell that summons thee to hell." Therefore, Shakespeare could be arguing how the evilness of witches diffuses into Macbeth after they meet, causing him to commit bloody atrocities. However, one may argue how ambition has always been deeply instilled into Macbeth's character, even without the witches. His immediate instinct to resort to dark and deep desires to gain power depicts Macbeth's firmness to commit regicide, the most heinous crime in the Jacobean era. The plosive alliteration in dark and deep signifies the mental inclination towards destruction that was always present in Macbeth. This idea is further supported as, even before meeting the witches, Macbeth is introduced as brave Macbeth. Although the adjective brave denotes his loyalty towards the king, alternatively it could suggest Macbeth's willingness to take risks no one else would, like committing regicide. Thus, Shakespeare argues that ambition has always been Macbeth's hamartia, one that would spur him into destruction even without the witches. In fact, Shakespeare could also be criticizing the Jacobean patriarchal beliefs of bravery being the yardstick for manhood, and how this may actually encourage men like Macbeth to be tyrants. Additionally, Shakespeare also illustrates Lady Macbeth to be a major source of influence to Macbeth. When she asks, "Unsex me here," she gains immense power. The imperative unsex could have an impressionable effect on the audience due to the chaotic nature of her wish, but here could arguably hint at her tone of desperation to gain power, as she is unaware of her underlying weakness. Through this quote, Lady Macbeth gains huge power and control in order to pursue her ambition, and thereby nullify her husband's milk of the human kindness, so he may pursue his vaulting ambition as well. Alternatively, another reader may question how Lady Macbeth could gain this much power at all. To be unsexed, she calls on the spirits to help her. Hence, this can be viewed as the witches' doing once more, supporting their role in Macbeth's downfall. Moreover, Shakespeare depicts Lady Macbeth's manipulation of questioning masculinity to be a factor for Macbeth's downfall. She asks, "When you durst do it, then you were a man." She tries to emasculate him to see their plan through, with durst implying the risk-taking behavior she is encouraging. Hence, one may argue how Macbeth commits regicide to prove masculinity to his wife, not for power, thereby causing his downfall. Interestingly, Macbeth returns to the witches to seek further prophecies to aid him, and this dependency on the murdering ministers could be a case in fault of Macbeth, as he is oblivious of luring himself into a trap. However, this could also be interpreted as the witches having immense power in manipulating Macbeth, so much so that he cannot move forward without them. The witches continue to show Macbeth only half-truths, elevating his overconfidence in his position by professing, "No man born of woman can harm Macbeth." This causes Macbeth's false sense of security even in the final battle, and he only realizes the witches' dubious manipulation when he finds that Macduff was untimely ripped from his mother. It is this overconfidence that the witches cause that ultimately leads Macbeth to his death. Shakespeare at the same time uses Banquo as a foil to Macbeth, as Banquo has also witnessed the witches but never falls into their trap, recognizing them as instruments of darkness and reflecting the Jacobean distrust of witches. Hence, the witches are depicted as not powerful enough to influence anybody. It was an inherent fatal flaw in Macbeth that led him to his doom. To conclude, Shakespeare effectively presents multiple factors that caused Macbeth's fall from grace, and ultimately how the witches were mere catalysts for Macbeth's ambition, but not completely to blame for his downfall. So guys, as you can see, all the quotes used in this essay come from the Excel spreadsheet. These quotes have been found by filtering out all the quotes relevant to the witches and Macbeth's character and then been used here. All those quotes pertain to assessment objective 1, 2, and 3, which relates to alternative interpretations, quotes analysis, and organization, respectively. And you can see them highlighted above. I hope you found this episode useful and all these resources help you through your journey in Macbeth. Remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode of Killer Literature.